So, guys, thank you for joining us this morning. I'm going to give you a break from my voice today. Today is going to be hosted by Mr. James Hobbs, our Netgear Wi-Fi Pro Design Engineer. Some of you, if you've used Wi-Fi from Netgear for many years, will know James. James has worked delivering Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi site surveys and Wi-Fi solutions for Netgear for many a moon. It's part of what we're doing with Wi-Fi, similar to some of the initiatives we're running with our AV business. We have created a brand new SMB wireless pro design team. The idea being, we want to create a service for you guys to have access to the expertise that exists with guys like James and myself to provide you help with kit lists, bills of material, solutions, and much more. I'm not going to talk about, because I'm going to let James whiz you through. So this is very much an introduction to the service, the team, and some of the stuff that we've got going on. So listen to James. Any questions you have along the way, drop them in the Q&A window. Myself and James will try and answer them as we go. If not, we'll spend a little time at the end for some Q&A. Well, over to you, James.
Thank you, Kieran. Much appreciated. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all good on this lovely January morning. Still see there's still a few people creeping in, but we will move forward. So, the new Netgear Wireless Pro Design team. Obviously, adoption of Wi-Fi 6 or AX as it's known is increasing, and it's now rapidly accelerating, largely due to coronavirus as well. There's been a massive adoption of wireless networking deployments in various verticals, anywhere from offices where things like hot desking is becoming more popular. People don't want to share wired machines anymore. And obviously schools, education, much the same. Devices are handed out, one device per pupil. So naturally, wireless networking is the way to go. So the new Pro Design team has been set up basically to help you achieve the best possible wireless networks for your clients. Everything is free of charge and is designed just to help you pre-sales and post-sales.
I will just add in, if you do have colleagues or customers, clients, partners that don't get to watch this session, we will be running this session again on the 9th of February and the 9th of March. So if you do want to get other people on, there will be further sessions to introduce the team.
And these are also going to be available post this webinar as well, aren't they, Kieran?
They will indeed. We'll share these out. We are recording today's session as well, so we can get that placed on our partner portal for you.
Excellent, thank you. So a little bit of what you can get access to. The training and education. So there are a series of training sessions can be offered, sales and end user help of all things wireless. There are obviously the wireless site surveys. So some of you guys may have used them already. As Kieran said, many years now I've been doing the site surveys for Netgear. So tends to be the ones that use them appreciate how good they are. It's an on-site survey, so appreciate that obviously with everything going on, things are difficult, so we do try and make everything COVID secure, but we will assess each one individually at the moment, just to make sure that it is safe, not only for us, for you guys, but and the end users as well. If we don't feel it's safe for everyone, it won't go forward at this current time. We can also do predictive surveys, but there is no replacement for on-site RF testing. Signal penetration through the walls and floors is you can't replicate that on a computer model. So on-site is definitely the best way to go, the most accurate way to go. Obviously, with the sign up to the partner portal, there is also exclusive promotions and discounts, and your pre and post sales support. So dedicated team here to help you from whatever you need, whether it's a whole wireless project, if you've got a technical question, a client's looking at another vendor, you want to see where Netgear can fit the bill as a competitor, hit the guys up. So ideally, Wi-Fi Pro Design at netgear.com will be your first port of call. You can also contact the team on 01344 458 200. Someone will take your call. So, wireless solutions seem to be pretty much the norm everywhere and expected everywhere these days. From retail outlets, small coffee shops, through to sports and recreation centres, hotels, care facilities, offices, education, pretty much everywhere either is or is looking to deploy Wi-Fi solutions. Even more increased over the last year or so with COVID, a lot more remote working, a lot more hot desking in offices to reduce shared computers and shared contact points. It is growing rapidly. So, aside from some of the verticals, why Netgear? So, business class Wi-Fi solutions. Obviously, we are looking at Wi-Fi 6 technology now. Wi-Fi 5 is still around, so if there is a bit of a price point to hit, those are still available. It's a cloud-based solution, so faster installation. You can use an app or a cloud portal. No additional hardware needed, no controllers. It is subscription-based. We'll go through that a little bit later. And a 5-year market-leading warranty, 24/7 chat support for peace of mind. And what do you need to power all these APs? Maybe one of the largest PoE switch portfolio on the market today. Everything from standard PoE, PoE Plus, 1 gig, 10 gig, it's all there, and it can all be built in as part of your wireless deployment. There are a few other bits and pieces that are available to you. So aside from the exclusive promotions and discounts, the site surveys and dedicated knowledge base, if anyone is looking for demo or NFR kits, please contact Wi-Fi Pro Design at netgear.com or call the office. And these are done on a request basis, so we will be subject to approval and availability. But if it's something you're interested in, contact the team and we can get back to you. So, Wi-Fi 6, what is in the current SMB portfolio? So at the top we've got our Orbi Pro mesh Wi-Fi systems. These come with either as a base unit, base plus 2 satellites, base plus 3 satellites, or you can just buy additional satellites. 5-year warranty, mesh system with dedicated backhaul, ideal for smaller deployments, your coffee shops, your small pubs, places like that. Obviously, it could be deployed in the home as well for larger residential. My bread and butter, moving on, is the wired access points. In particular, the WAX 610 and WAX 610Y. These are the current Wi-Fi 6 APs, Insight managed. There are a few standalone options as well in the 204, 214 and 218. chances are, if you're talking to me and looking at Wi-Fi surveys, you'll be looking at an Insight managed solution, which will be the 610 and 610Y, which are indoor and outdoor 2x2 Wi-Fi 6 access points. Both have a 2.5 gig Ethernet port, so we can run them on a gig, but if you need multi-gig switching, again, can all be built in as part of your solution that's recommended. There is also, if you're looking at maybe a greenfield site, you need a VPN firewall, then the BR200, again, Insight manageable, that can be tagged on as part of the solution. Still have the Wi-Fi 5 lineup as well, so again, Orbi Pro systems at the top, with your kits and satellite units. There was also a ceiling satellite and an outdoor Orbi as well. And onto the access points again, a couple of standalone units, 104 and 124. And then if I've dealt with, I'm sure I have dealt with some of you guys on site surveys and project support previously, you're probably familiar with the 510 and 540 access points. Again, they can be bundled as packs of 3, and the 564 add-on mesh unit. If you don't have PoE, the customer doesn't have PoE, or they have mains power in place, we can also add on an AC mains adapter in the PAV 12V. So, a couple of scenarios. Kieran, did you want to go through any of these?
I can talk you through some of these. I actually know Brian. He's a personal friend of mine. So Brian works for a company managing SMBs. He likes to provide network and VoIP services, so switches, telephones on desks, and it's a bit of a hybrid MSP break fix models. I'm sure I recognise a fair few of the names on today's session, so I'm sure a lot of you guys are fairly familiar with this model. We've all been there, done that, and work in some way, shape, or form kind of around it. Now, Brian's pretty satisfied, but he's on the lookout for some reliable devices, something to help him manage, maintain, configure, but do it all remotely, which means he doesn't have to go to site, he doesn't have to set up any complicated VPNs per se, but he wants something that will allow him to manage either from his laptop, from his phone, from his tablet, and be able to provide that same kind of service that he would get should he be on site itself. Now, he trusts Netgear. He's bought switches for many a year from Netgear. He's very popular in our office, young Brian, and he knows the hardware is reliable. He knows it allows him to do what he needs. He knows it's supported in the way he needs. And having something like Netgear Insight to provide that remote management just gives him that little bit something extra to add to his portfolio and help him do his job and give better service and response to his customers. Now, if we flip forward one, we're going to see that Brian is not alone. Now, this is about Charles. Charles is a friend of Brian's. They work together, have done for many, many years. These are real people. Charles and Brian, if you message me afterwards, I can share their LinkedIn pages. But much like Brian, Charles has been running in IT and running a network company for 20 years. Simple break, fix, repairs, installations, has a lot of local businesses on his books. Things like restaurants, coffee shops, dental surgeries, all those types of places where network infrastructure is very important. And even so far as large houses. So even personal residents. And we're seeing an uptick certainly in the last kind of 12 months of people turning to business class solutions to use in their homes. So it's not uncommon the cost of something like a WAX218 or a WAX214, you can achieve blazing fast Wi-Fi 6 speeds without necessarily having to pay for router functionality that you may already have. So in a lot of places where people are setting up things like home offices, these can provide a pretty good solution, and Charles is testament to that out installing them. And much like Brian, he tests everything before deploying it to make sure it works, it's secure, has the right configurations. But Insight Pro gives him that extra ability to deploy remotely, so configure in the cloud, send out devices to be hung on walls. It gives him the added reliability and security, as well as being able to monitor and maintain that network from anywhere. I think the moral of that story is Brian and Charles are pretty happy chums, because having something like Insight Pro to go with your Wi-Fi 6 gives you that extra ability in terms of managing, maintaining, and deploying your projects. So I think the moral of that story is be like Brian and Charles. And then back over. I'm going to pass you off to James again.
Thanks, Kieran. And as I mentioned before, Insight is a license-based model. You don't have a controller on site. Instead, devices are licensed. These licenses on the screen here, the SKUs, are for the Pro level. There are end user aimed levels as well in the basic and the premium. But you guys here today as Netgear partners will primarily be looking at the Pro licenses. So they are available as a single 1-year license, 3 or 5 year, and they can be bundled in packs of 5, 10, 25, 50 or 100. There is a basic captive portal built in, but if you wanted something a bit more special, then the captive portal license would need to apply as well. Again, in bundles of 1, 3, 10, 40, and multiple 1 or 3 year licenses are available.
Don't worry about writing all of those down. We are going to send you these slides afterwards. So everything you see today, James is going to pop out in the post to you, so you've got a copy of it. So don't stress too much if you haven't got anything like the license keys or versions that you want to see. We're going to hand this out in a PDF pamphlet post this webinar.
And again, any questions, we will have a little Q&A at the end, and you can always reach us at wifiprodesign@netgear.com. So, breathing new life into the partner portal. As if many of you are still using the portal, it's a great one-stop shop for everything you might need. Details on the discounts that are available, the training modules, requesting the site surveys. There are also rebrandable marketing assets, which obviously you can use to target new business as well as supporting your existing customers. And everything is there in one place. So, as I said, it was a brief introduction to the team, a little bit about what we're doing, what is available to support you, and a quick run through on the products. There will be more webinars coming up, which will go into more details. But initially, thank you for attending, and if you've got any questions, now is the time to fire away.
Nice one, James. Thank you very much. So if you do have questions, let us know. Malcolm raises a very good question. He says, can the customer have their own specific login to Netgear Insights? Now, Malcolm, I'm going to presume you mean the end customer. And James, I'm going to chuck that at you, mate.
So, like I say, there are a few levels on the licensing. So the app, which is the basic, and there is a premium, these are customer focused levels of insight. So these would be owned by your customer, which obviously they can log into, they can share your details. If you're looking at the pro level, so if you're an MSP and you're supporting multiple customers across multiple locations, then you would have overall login and visibility of everything. But if you wanted to invite, say, an IT manager of a company that you look after to have some visibility over their locations, then you can invite them to have visibility of just their company and their locations.
Hopefully that answers your question there, Malcolm. So you can have managers present, like James said, on Netgear Insights. So you absolutely can have individual logins. We've got a question here from Neil. I have a client who has closed his US office and shipped his WAC 610 to the UK to use, but I can't register on the UK Insight. Any ideas? Oh, Neil, straight into the support questions. Like it. So there should be no difference. It is the absolute same system worldwide. It's the very same controller. Potentially, I wonder if his unit is still connected to his account. But Neil, we'll reach out to you straight after this webinar to give you a helping hand and get you going. I'm sure it's a very simple fix somewhere that we can help with. James, I'll tell you what, if you just want to highlight something, if you go back one page, James, just want to throw a little bit of spotlight on this. So if you're not signed up, do get yourself signed up to the partner portal, because this is the place where everything ends up. So this is where you can find all of the discounts exclusive to Netgear partners and resellers, free survey forms for the Wi-Fi surveys. You've got training videos on there, recorded webinars will be on there, loads of reusable marketing assets, as well as a whole host of other good stuff to help you get going. So do take advantage, it's free of charge. Get yourself over to powershift.netgear.com and get yourself signed up. Any troubles, remember, reach out to any of the team, reseller at netgear.com. We'll lend a helping hand, but definitely do take advantage of this. There's a lot of good resource on there.
One of the other things that is available, we'd like to make more available and bring up to date, is the case studies. So if any of you are working on or have any upcoming projects that you think would be ideally suitable, please speak to us, and we'd love to support and get some case study development on the board as well.
Great point there, James. So again, do reach out to us if you think you've got a good site and you want to get some marketing behind it. Netgear will be more than happy to help you guys produce some kind of case study content. Guys, any more questions? We're all yours until 11:30. So plenty of time if you do want to get some questions in that you think of. If you want to ask us some things about the access points, tech specs, installations. If you want to just ask James about his personal life. We've got a quiet audience this morning. Oh, we've got something in. There you go, from David Punton. What added function do you get with the licensed captive portal? Great question there, Dave. So the licensed captive portal, you'll get increased visibility into who and what is on your Wi-Fi. You'll also get increased capacity to edit the captive portal page that you see. So Netgear Insight does provide a free, functional, and very good basic captive portal. But if you want a little bit more functionality, potentially you want to change the background pictures, you want to make it look a bit fancier, you'd like to see some analytics about who and what is on the Wi-Fi and where they're going, then that's all the good stuff that you can see on our licensable captive portal system. So it's actually provided by a company called Ragapar. They integrate with our captive portal, our insight service, to produce that. And it's a pretty cool bit of kit. If it's something people would like to see, let us know. Maybe we can put together a little session on it. Hopefully that answers your question there, Dave.
Kieran, there's a question from Dav regarding the BR200 500.
I can see that. So Dav asks, any plans to develop a more advanced product than the BR200 500? Oh, Dav, let me see if I can just chuck some NDAs to everyone on this room. As you can imagine, internally at Netgear, there are teams of people working on all types of things for a long time before they get released. So we are absolutely looking at new products that we can make and introduce to the market to fill certain gaps or to help achieve bigger solutions, be that in security, Wi-Fi, switching, or other. So there are lots of things we're working on without being too specific and getting myself in trouble. So certainly continue to watch this space. Things like webinars are a great place to come in and get introed. Also speak to myself and James and speak to the guys who work in the Netgear UK office. And if there's interest on certain things that are shareable under NDA, if you are working closely with us and you'd like to potentially see what's available or coming up for stuff we can share, do pop over and speak to your channel account manager and ask for an NDA form. And potentially the shareable stuff, we may be able to give you a bit of insight on what's coming next. But certainly watch this space, Dav.
Does anyone have any questions about the site surveys and pre-sales support at all? I know many of you guys are already using that service to full effect, but anyone here that hasn't?
Just want to tap on quickly just to the end of Dav's statement about the BR200 500. I should note, if you are looking at the BR500 or 200, it does only operate on a 24-bit subnet. So just do bear that in mind. So 255.255.255.0. So just make that clear. If you are looking at the BR500 and 200, do bear that little gotcha in mind. Sorry, James. We got one here from Malcolm for you, James. Does the site survey allow or check for the existing broadband service?
Okay, it's a conversation, it's a question that is posed in terms of what is the current provision, are there any plans to change it? We don't tap into any of your customers' devices or network as part of the survey. So it's usually something that we'd ask for, what is the speed package, what type of connection have you got? We may also suggest running a speed test there. But it's not something that we particularly look at in terms of a provision. You are generally limited by the geography of your location. We can certainly make suggestions of, okay, if you're up out in the middle of nowhere and you've got a 2 meg connection and you're looking to get your conference center online, that it's probably not going to do the job. and we may suggest looking at some options, whether that's a 4G LTE router, or just seeing what other provision is available locally from either the established or smaller ISPs. It's certainly something, a question that pops up, but it's not something that we make a firm recommendation on, purely because a lot of it is not only out of our control, it's out of the customer's control, possibly budget as well. Kieran, another question on the guest Wi-Fi captive portal from Alan Batterby. When setting up a guest Wi-Fi, can you tell me if captive portal gathers information, i.e. email address, name, and is that available for popping into some marketing for?
Depends how scrupulous you're going to be with your marketing there, Alan, I reckon. But you can indeed, so it can collect downloadable information that obviously with your policies in place that you can then use for marketing purposes to do outreach to people joining the Wi-Fi, which is obviously a very useful function in hospitality, hotels, restaurants, etc. Oh, I'll tell you what, hopefully that answers your question, Alan. Like I said, Alan, if you do want to see a bit more about it, do let us know, and potentially we can set up a live video or another live webinar or demo around the captive portal functionality. Here's one for you, James. Neil says, having worked with James on a few surveys now and implemented a few of these, is there any plans for a post-install survey to check performance? So,
Hi, Neil. It is a great question, and it's not something that is done as a matter of course. The idea is that all the relevant information is collected during the pre-sales site survey, and your performance is predicted off of that. Obviously, things can change on a daily, hourly basis, so the information we gather is a snapshot for the time we are on site, and obviously there are a lot of predictions. I would say if you've got specific worries or questions or requirements, then pop us an email. We're flexible, so if there is something in particular that you need, then drop us an email, wifiprodesign@netgear.com, and it's certainly something that we can discuss and have a look at.
you, James, yeah. So remember, you got full support of the Wi-Fi Pro Design team. So if you do want to have a breakdown and review, or if you've got any concerns, reach out. What's that email address, James?
wifiprodesign@netgear.com.
Wowzers.
It's all there, one-stop shop.
One-stop shop. It's the home of Wi-Fi, mate. It's the home of Wi-Fi. We've still got plenty of time left. I guess somehow I think we've turned into a surgery session now, James. So as long as you guys are on the webinar, we'll hang around and answer any questions. We're booked in until 11:30. So if you do want to claim back a bit of your morning and you want to make a run for it, of course, feel free. If you do want to hang around and ask us questions, me and James will stay on the session as long as you need us. So do ask some questions, let us know.
If it's something that you want to get some more information about, or you've got some questions, you'd like something a bit more bespoke, one-on-one conversations, drop us an email. We can always schedule a call or demo of any particular kit or features that you're looking for.
Very good point there, James. If you are after demos, remember Wi-Fi Pro Design at netgear.com. Oh, Anonymous says, thank you for your time. I've got to run. Not a problem. Thank you for joining us. It is very much appreciated.
As Kieran mentioned, there will be a follow-up email. The brochure, these slides will be sent out on to digest in your own time. And again, have a read through at your leisure. And let us know if you've got any questions.
Here's a question for you, James. We've had a survey carried out and the customer is now asking if it guarantees good signal, etc.
Again, a great question. So as I mentioned to Neil, the site survey obviously is the information that's gathered there is in the snippet of time that we are on site. Yet there are many things that can change in the RF environment, but the recommendation that is put together is based on the RF signals and strengths that are seen and accounted for with any interference or potential interference that is found on site. Obviously, there are a lot of variables in terms of numbers of connections, types of connections, how those connections are spread, and other environmental factors that we can't account for or are not present during the survey. The information there, you'll never find a vendor that will 100% guarantee full coverage, good coverage every single place. But I would say if there are any issues, let us know.
Yeah, good point. I think it's fine. That's important to I guess provide as much available information as you can prior to your survey, because when and James, we go to site, we don't just scan for Wi-Fi, do we? We actually scan for any kind of interference within those frequencies.
Definitely. So it's one of probably the biggest causes of troubleshooting in Wi-Fi is actually not Wi-Fi, but it's other devices that are using the 2.45 gigahertz band. So especially on 2.4, there is a lot of wireless technology from Bluetooth to infrared to microwave that can all have a really detrimental effect to your internal wireless network, which for all your remote planning and desktop surveys, you'll never find that out unless you're doing some RF scanning on site. Again, a lot of this, there's not too much you can do about it. So if it's something like a carrier's mobile phone mast that's blasting your 2.4, all we can do is make suggestions on how best to work around that interference, potential interference. But because of that, service levels can never 100% be guaranteed.
Will certainly work to your requirements. So, you know, although like James says, we'll be on site and we'll know from the captured information that we gather on site on that visit what we're going to look like. Obviously, if you do think I'm going to have X amount of people on the Wi-Fi, maybe I'm looking at having 200 people on the Wi-Fi and there's only 50 people in that day, do let James know, let him know the requirements around the Wi-Fi. The more information, the better. That we can provide, because sometimes it's not always just about coverage. Sometimes coverage is good, but sometimes it's bandwidth or numbers of people that equate and change the number of access points that are deployed in a solution, as well as the technology and the configurations, things like load balancing and roaming around those sites, especially in busier locations. So that the more information you can provide prior to your survey, the better. Hopefully that answers your question, Malcolm. Surgery is still open for sessions, so if you think of stuff that you want to know, let us know, no matter how awkward the question, unless it's super awkward. do pop it in the Q&A and we'll endeavour to answer it for you. James, does the surveyor chat to the customer about this whilst on site?
It is something that potentially crops up. Ideally, we would meet with the IT personnel on site, because a lot of the time the customer themselves may have limited or no knowledge of IT and their premises, or may not have the interest in it. So it's the idea, obviously, is that the report is put together following that, and we would ideally liaise with the IT support company who's doing the supply and the installation regarding the technical aspects of the solution.
James, and remember, we're more than happy to talk to end users with you prior to site as well. So anyone you need us to talk to or work with on that solution, sync us up, and we can work with you guys, your resellers, your end users, your installers, whoever you need to make sure we get as much information as possible.
I mean, Kieran, I don't know if you still get this. I mean, I've been doing site surveys and supporting Wi-Fi installations for over 10 years now, and it's still often referred to as a bit of a dark art.
Yep. All of the time, my good friend. All of the time. I guess it's one of those things you can't see. I mean, believe it or not, I had somebody email me through the night this week, complaining that their Wi-Fi 6 router only did Wi-Fi 6 at 6 foot, which was a surprise and shock because their Wi-Fi router didn't do Wi-Fi 6. So it wasn't going to do it at 1 foot, let alone 6 foot. And that is actually down to a misunderstanding around the technology. That actually used 802.11ad technology, which didn't get a number. In fact, we went straight from Wi-Fi 5 on 802.11ac to Wi-Fi 6, which is 802.11ax, and 802.11ad, which kind of came in between. It's actually capable of 7 gigabit per second Wi-Fi speeds, but it actually operates within the 60 gigahertz frequency, which means there's not a lot of support out for it in the world. But if you do have devices that can use it, it is trailblazing fast, but it is hampered by things like line of sight, as well as traversing through any type of material. So anything in the way can block and reduce signal drastically. It's only functional up to about 25 to 30 foot. But you know, Wi-Fi, like you said, is a black art to a lot of people. And there's still a lot of misunderstanding out there, but that's why we're here, right? So that's why we got the Wi-Fi Pro design team. If you've got any questions around standards or technology, then do let us know. If you want to clarify some bits, if you want to know what something means, maybe RSSI, what are the levels, what is a good RSSI level, maybe you're doing a bit of scanning at your site with a Wi-Fi analyzer on your phone and you want to understand what the numbers and specs you're seeing mean. If you need a bit of technical translation, let us know.
You also have to bear in mind that the devices are connecting to the wireless network as well. Obviously, there are an abundance of devices out there, some dating back many years, and wireless, as much as wired networks, is generally limited to the slowest or poorest performing piece of kit that is connected to it. So again, if you're having specific issues, let us know. It's something that we can certainly look into and throw up some ideas or places to look if you are having any issues. Obviously, it's something a site survey would be useful for. If you've got an existing site using a solution that just isn't cutting the mustard anymore, speak to us. More than happy to provide support.
Got a good question here. What is a good Wi-Fi analyzer? Very good question. I certainly have an analyzer of choice. Obviously, James, you use Wi-Spy kits. Obviously, we do use Wi-Spy, which are independent hardware analyzers for both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz frequencies, as opposed to just Wi-Fi. So they are dedicated hardware that we use for scanning. In terms of apps, there are a lot of good apps out there. I personally, I don't know about you, James, but I use Insider on my phone, which is a very good app. It's spelled INSSIDER. That's a very good phone app.
That would certainly be my go-to for a free analyzer, which if you're just looking for signal strength levels, the networks that are available, a little bit of information on what channels access points are on, that would be my go-to. If it's issues around interference and things like, need a bit more detail, like Kieran said, so I use the Wi-Spy kits on site, which sort of breaks your screen up and provides half Insider and half spectrum analyzer for looking at the bands and any potential interference that may be present in the environment. Question from Neil. Kieran, you're the switch guru. This will be for you, mate. Options for multi-gig switches are, I assume, to be supporting things like the WAX 610 access points.
Great question. So we do have a range of multi-gig switches, both in PoE, non-PoE, and across multiple switch categories, all the way from unmanaged switching up to fully managed layer 3 switching. We do 2.5 dedicated ports. We also do multi-gig ports all the way up to 10 gig PoE as well, within our fully managed portfolios. I'm going to drop a link in the chat window that shares a bit more information on our multi-gig versions. So if you take a look at that, that will list all of the different models, families, ports that have some or all multi-gig functionality across their portfolios. There's even ultra PoE versions in there as well, so things like 60 watt versions. We also do UPoE up to 90 watts. So there's loads of options in there. If you click on that link, obviously very important for things like Wi-Fi 6. So if you didn't know, our Wi-Fi 6 access points are capable of 2.5 gig. You can power them off 1 gig PoE, and there are customers who are more than happy knowing that they're going to get that full 1 gig speed out of their Wi-Fi. But you can punch through the 1 gig barrier with Wi-Fi 6. So it should always be an option that you want to consider, is to look at something like a multi-gig PoE switch if you're PoE powering access points, or a multi-gig non-PoE switch if you're going to use hard power and plugged PAB12s. Certainly do take a look. There's a lot of good options in there. I think at the moment we've just deployed some in a college in central London that we'll be case studying very soon, which is quite a nice site. I think at the moment they're up to 70 odd WAC 610 access points, and they use both our 96x managed switches and also our 16x managed switches at multi-gig to provide both the power and the data to those access points, which should be a pretty good case study that we'll be completing soon. Once that's finished, that deployment, that should be over 370-ish access points across one site. So that should be a pretty good case study that we can have a good in-depth talk on. We'll also get the man in charge of that site on that webinar to talk us through it again. So keep your eyes peeled. Obviously, we'll chuck that onto the partner portal once it's in and we have a date confirmed. But loads of good options there, Neil. And if you want to ask us about the options again, don't think you can't email us at Wi-Fi Pro Design. Obviously, switches attached to access points, they're part of the same solution. So if you do have any questions, we are in the business of switching as well, so don't be afraid to ask them and email us at Wi-Fi Pro Design as part of that, and we'll help out for sure. Down to the business end of the webinar now. We've still got 10 minutes to go. So if you do have questions, you still got time. Even if you don't panic. You can always pop them over in a message after, and we'll endeavour to answer those for you. There you go. Malcolm said, I think that's me done. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Malcolm. Very much appreciated for coming on, for asking us questions. We do like to make it a bit interactive. I think that's probably a good point then where we'll let you guys gain some time back and get on with your days. But we do really appreciate you joining us. Very much appreciated. Got any questions you think of, post. Remember, Wi-Fi Pro Design at netgear.com. I don't know if you just want to flip forward a couple of slides, James. I think it's in there somewhere. There you go. So remember, give us a shout. Any parting words, James?
Thanks for attending. And like I say, any questions at all, let us know. Keep your eyes peeled. Obviously, products are dropping thick and fast as technology progresses. Site surveys are available, support is available, pre and post sales. Hit us up.
Lovely, jubbly. Thank you, James, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dav. Thank you, everyone that attended. Andy, Neil, still see you on there. So Miami as well. Thank you. So look, thanks, guys. Very much appreciated. We are back on Thursday this week at 10:30. We are actually have the head of Wi-Fi, so the product manager globally for Netgear Wi-Fi, a lovely chap called Doug Chung. He'll be joining us. So if you do have questions and you want to ask the honcho himself, then remember, join us this Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Same time, same place. If you're looking for a webinar link, let us know. We'll send them out post this to everyone that attended. You can also find it on the partner portal. Any other questions, remember, Wi-Fi Pro Design at netgear.com. Otherwise, enjoy your day, enjoy the rest of your week, and we shall speak to you again very soon. Cheers, James.
Thanks, Kieran.